call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes, I'll do that right. We don't have to stand for it. Before I start the meeting tonight, I just want to take a moment of silence for what happened at Michigan State and the lives that were lost. Okay, Trish. Roll call.
Mrs. Brew?
Here.
Mr. Kramer?
Here.
Mr. Menegini?
Here.
Mr. Marraro?
Here.
Mr. Pop?
Here.
We'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Is there any questions on the agenda? If not, I need a motion on the agenda.
Make motion to approve the agenda tonight.
Support.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Marraro?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of February 1st, 2023.
Make a motion, we approve regular meeting of February 1st, 2023.
Support.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Marraro?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
And the closed session of February 1st, 2023.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes from closed session of February 1st, 2023.
Support.
Mr. Marraro?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes?
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
We'll move on to the approval of the manifest 2023-04. Scott, did you have any questions?
I have one.
Okay.
In communications, the phone for $37,000.
Okay, let's see.
We gotta try to find it.
What page, Brett?
3 to 6.
So that's not, this happened last time as well. It's not 37 for that. I believe it just wasn't, it's not been broken down. This happened, I think, the last manifest as well, because I saw that and I said, if we're paying that much for that, and I think that's what it was. I'll have to look. It's either phone or it was emails that I thought was 37,000. I was wrong. And it
You
wasn't
sure it's not
broken down.
internet
The last,
or
I'll
data?
need to look.
I don't remember seeing it on their phone the last month.
Now, they do have that invoice.
And we need to change that description. If
Yeah,
it's
grab
data,
that.
if it's data services for the internet, it shouldn't be under, it shouldn't say phone services.
I'll look. She'll grab the invoice. We'll
Did you have
we'll look at that.
anything else?
That was
And then
my
when she
only
comes back, I'll
question.
go
Yep,
back
that
to
was my only question.
Because it would make sense if it's internet.
Jeff, did you have any?
I'm good.
questions?
No, that's it.
I have one on page 4 of 6, and I see David's here tonight, so I can ask him. L&S Electric Argon Pump, what did we have done to the pump?
The 20 horse pump went down, and we had to have it rebuilt.
Okay.
Right now, we're running 70 horse intermittently. The 20 runs the stream all year long, and keep it down. Lack of, he said just lack of years of service. That's
Okay.
what it was. It didn't fry the windings or nothing, but
Good.
we had something go out, was tripping us all on the load, so they went through it for us.
Okay, thanks for letting me know. All right,
Something was tripping at the end, but they said it was fine.
The windings were fine. They found out that the pump bearing was wearing, so it was slowing the pump down. We have a VFD on there, so any increase in amperage, if it goes up an amp or two, it kicks off, it won't come back, it says an overload on the power.
Okay.
And we have also, we took it apart, disassembled the power to come back and put it, well, we'll go from there for reassembling the power to it. So, but the unit's back in house and we're gonna be reinstalling with the weather change.
okay.
Excuse me, David, did they have to replace anything at all, or no?
Basically cleaning up the bearings and things like that, and just maintenance of the pump itself.
Okay.
I think that pump's been in operation for going on 10 years or better, and it sits out in the elements, and like you said, that's just time. And that runs all the time. What's that?
Lucky it lasted that long.
And it's all the elements, and it runs all the time, it's a 20 horse. I mean, we run our large pump on the spring meter usually, just. So right now, if somebody says the lake is low, yes, we pump it down You know, we'll run it for a month or so and then shut that off, and then the lake will come back up, but with the 20, we can keep constant flow of the stream too, so.
Okay. Thank you. Did you want to go back to?
I have it. I need to look through it. There's a lot on there.
Where's the line out?
Well, so it's that, and it's that. I haven't seen this bill before. I need to go through what all that is. See, I don't know if this is a standard, if this is normal. I don't know.
I think that's internet, but
Yeah, we'll have to verify it.
All right. You can get back to us and let us know about that. If there's no other questions, do I have a motion on the manifest?
I move to approve manifest 2023-04, the amount of $318,417.82.
support.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Mararo?
Yes.
Did we have any previous questions on the manifest?
I do not believe so.
Okay. You guys would know because I wasn't here, so. Okay, we're gonna move to public comment. Anyone in attendance wishing to address the council on any item of interest shall do so now at the podium. State your name and address for the record. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. We have none. Anyone in attendance wishing to address the council on an agenda item only shall do so now at the podium. State your name and address for the record. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes. We have none, so we'll move, I'll need a motion to go into public hearing to vacate public right-of-way plot of Wendell First Addition.
I make a motion to go in public hearing.
Support.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes?
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Mararo?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Okay, Dan,
Okay, so just to get everybody up to speed, back in November, and I will just note this for the record, for the public hearing, we did send out notices to property owners in the vicinity about this. In that letter, it does mention the council discussed this at the November 2nd, 2022 meeting. That is an error. It was November 7th, 2022. I don't think it has any bearing on this. The notice still referenced the meeting date of tonight, but we will verify that if something. I just remembered to start this Matt Cross, which he won't be. Sorry, everybody, one second. Let me just do this for him. Okay. So it was we have the wrong date for when we first discussed it. And where this came about was a Robert Luthard approached us about purchasing these two city properties. And in order for those properties to work for him to build a single-family home, there was discussion to vacate this section of Brown Street, I believe, which has served no purpose, and I can't imagine we would ever put that road. It goes to nowhere, it just runs dead end to the railroad tracks. So that is what the public hearing is about, is the vacating of that road. We didn't receive any objections to vacating the right-of-way. We did hear some comments from some people about the properties itself, but that we can discuss that in item 3 when we get to the actual discussion of the purchasing or selling of these two properties. So my recommendation would be to vacate this, whether we retain these properties or sell it. You know, that road has no purpose to us, and it's better off being put to either side of those two properties.
That sewer line would be recognized in that vacated, since it goes through that.
Yeah, so we do have the sewer line. I was gonna bring that up in the purchasing of the property, but we did, there is a sewer line that does go through the vacated road here, the parcel down here, and then goes back behind these houses and up here. So anything that's built, of course, we'll have to have a certified survey to show that, is it 10 foot?
10 foot each side.
10 foot easement on each side.
10 foot each side of the sewer main.
Yep, of any utility, so.
And we have right away of that no matter what we do?
Yes.
Yes.
It'll be in the deed, and it is in the deed when we get to that.
There's utility easements.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, but
So what
for-
would happen if somebody, is there still enough room to build something there?
And that's,
In that parcel, yes, on the left.
Yeah, there will be room. I mean, that's why when this was brought to us, to vacate this was to make room to actually build. I mean, it's tight, but there is an ability to meet setbacks, but a lot of it would be predicated on being able to use the vacated street here. So again, whether we decide to retain these properties or sell them, I still believe you may as well just vacate that road, and then half of that vacated would go to our property here, and half would go to our property here. It doesn't do us any good. The easements are still there. We have access to those. That would never change.
Any other questions? Does anybody have questions on the council? Anybody in the, out in the audience have any questions or comments? As of right now, we'll just be, like Dan said, we're just gonna, split them. And then there's more to look into to see if you really can build on it or not.
Yeah. If council choose to vacate this, right now, all this means is that
Yeah.
half of that vacated road would go to the city property here, and half to the city property here, which we will discuss in item 3, the potential sale of this property, to which I'll speak on in more detail.
then there's 40 feet then basically down the middle, guys, that are 20 feet on both sides of that utility that have to stay open.
10.
Okay, so 20 total.
20 total.
That gives you enough room to do your thing?
Yes.
You gotta get that line?
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's shallow, the depth of that's only probably 4.5, 5 feet in the ground there.
Yeah, so there's the. Our properties
So you guys don't see a problem?
No.
You don't need the alley there?
No.
Okay.
And there's water mains that go through the backyards and right-of-ways of many homes, and we do have the legal right to access those and replace. And
Okay. If there's no other questions, no comments from the audience, do I have a motion to go back into regular session?
Support.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Marraro?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes. We'll move on to Resolution 2023-01, vacate public right-of-way, plat of Wendell, First Edition. So that's what we just
Yep,
talked
so
about?
this is the resolution that you just heard in the public hearing. So this would be the official resolution to vacate that road. And then the next item will discuss the two city properties. And again, I don't see an issue vacating that regardless of what we decide to do for the sale. It serves no purpose. Assessor agrees. There's a lot of areas like this that we could just start systematically going through and deciding if it is better off served to the property owner than to have an alley or street that will serve no purpose.
Do I have a motion?
I move that attached resolution 2023-01 be approved.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Marraro?
Yes.
Mr. Pop? Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
We'll move on to item number 3, purchase agreement between the City of Norway and Robert Luthart. But you're gonna update us on that?
Yeah, I'll give you an update and kind of where I think we should go with this tonight. So again, this is related to the vacating we just spoke about. So Mr. Luthart approached us again in November or so about building a single-family home, which we discussed, and it was contingent upon vacating this parcel. A couple things have come to light in the recent days, one being to verify the sewer main, which we have, we know where it runs. The other concern is with the smaller triangle property here next to the Habitat for Humanity homes. And the concern was that at some point in '07 or so, there was a discussion about this parcel and being used for runoff for these properties. And some earthwork was done. And so I would like to do a little more investigating of this parcel, and was there an agreement struck with Habitat, or is there a concern? You know, this is not buildable regardless, but if this was designed to help runoff, we don't necessarily want to sell it right now and potentially see more earthwork done that would impact the neighboring properties from a water and a flooding standpoint. I spoke to Mr. Luthard. He's okay pushing this a meeting or two to investigate this. I certainly think with the vacating, there's an ability to have his home built and protecting this area. Again, this is not buildable even if he owns it. So we could look at, if we do sell it, something in the deed that it needs to go untouched. So right now I suggest that we don't make a decision on the purchase agreement at this time, that we look at this at the next March meeting to let me investigate this small parcel a bit further to make sure we don't cause a problem down the road. Yeah, and, you know, Grant, the purchase agreement as is, it has been reviewed by our attorney, and he's fine with it, but he doesn't know about this particular aspect that has come. You know, the homeowners just to the next to this are here tonight. I did speak with them today. I think I kind of, okay. So, you know, to alleviate any concerns and talking to some of our utility guys and just do our little due diligence on this.
I think that's a great idea.
Excellent.
Make sure we're doing the right thing, because we don't want, you know,
Right.
I
that
make
to.
a motion we table a purchase agreement between the city of Norway and Robert Luthard until we dig into it deeper.
Support.
Mr. Mararo?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes?
Mr. Kramer?
What's the date of that?
Yeah, I was just,
I would say if you want to table it to the second,
I was gonna say we should have a date on it.
I would think in 2 weeks we could have it, we should be able to bring it back up. That should give enough time.
well, we're not
Gonna
going
be
to be here for the March 1st meeting.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So I would say we'll start on the 15th of March, and we'll see where we, get from there.
Will you, add that to your
Yeah.
motion,
I
please?
had to bring it back up in March 15th meeting.
Still support it.
Okay. I'll start over. Mr. Mararo?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Move on to item number 4, property for sale list. Brian Gordon, and I'll let you.
Okay, yeah, Ryan wasn't able to be with us today. He's Stevenson's Real Estate Realty Company. He's had several listings for the city for a few years. I'm not exactly sure how long, but at least the last 2 or 3. So this would be a discussion of relisting some of his current ones and adding a couple more and some potential others. So the lots that he currently has is the Oakcrest 2 and 3, and then the remaining Norway Spring subdivision lots. I don't see any issue relisting those with him. If anything, it's perhaps a discussion on cost of those lots. They're pretty inexpensive as of now. I don't think he's seen a lot of movement on them, but
When interest rates are right there, you're not gonna see a whole lot of movement on it.
How many has he actually sold for us in the last
One out there?
4 years?
1 or 2?
Since we've.
I don't know the numbers. I don't think it's been many, none since one potential since I've been here, but I don't think that has gone through.
I mean, if we're looking at advancing our website and everything else, we may want to think of we could probably advertise this for ourselves.
What was that last part, Scott?
I think we could start advertising this ourselves.
I certainly think these properties, it warrants a bit more of a marketing scheme.
You talking the Oak Park properties?
Yeah.
Well, the Oakcrest, well, that's a different topic. Right now, I'm speaking more of the Norway Spring. What's left are, I suppose you might say, the least desirable
less desirable
lots.
Yeah.
There was a conversation of, do we, lower them even further, because, you know, any house and property tax is gonna be relatively quickly more than what we could just hold in.
Utilities, the whole 9 yards. Yeah, especially if they're the least desirable, you just gotta get people on those, you know? Oak Crest, like you said, Oak Crest is a different animal.
Yeah, I think
You
you
know.
keep that out there.
Yep.
Could be the difference.
And I've had a good talk with Ryan, it's been about a year and a half or so now, maybe 2 years, but I remember he talked to me about that, and we should have him come in and talk to us. He had a real good understanding of what's going out there on an Oak Crest and why they're not moving for the price we want. And, but, you know, he's the one that really needs to lay it out for the council, and, because it made sense to me when he told me.
I mean, well, I guess let's start with, you know, is council interested in relisting the Spring View? So no changes there, it's the same
What are those,
handful.
what are we asking for,
We
guys?
dropped them a while
Here
ago.
they are, 10, 12,
Yeah,
10,
they're
I mean,
not-
15.
why wouldn't we just wanna cut that in half? I'm dead serious.
Yeah, the only, and I said the same thing.
You know, that helps somebody with a down payment for one thing, right? Because if they're really worth 10, and we're giving it to them for 5, as long as they're a stipulation that they build, like we've kind of done in other places,
Well, they are.
They are.
there you go. I mean, why, I mean, it'll probably help people to be able to buy that property and then also help them with their, you know, their loan to build, get them some instant equity. I mean, personally, I don't think we should be in the business of owning land, right? That's not moving, right? We want people to build homes and bring families here.
I wouldn't mind and I don't know if this is a hard thing to do because of what utilities are already there waiting for them, but I wouldn't mind, you know, those smaller lots that are harder to sell, that are less desirable, if you take those 2 sections of 3 and turn them into 2 sections of 2, make the lots a little bit bigger.
Are there any conjoining?
Yeah, there's a section of 3
So
and a
these
section
lots
of
right
3.
here,
Yeah, that one's a standalone.
these are,
That's
these are the
standalone, but those
Springview
next 2 are.
lots.
that's
Yeah,
3,
maybe
that's
those
3.
yeah.
I don't know, I'm
Yeah,
just,
no, I hear you.
same kind of idea that I think a professional could help with.
Or you could split the 3s into 2s maybe.
That's what I'm
Right.
saying,
Yeah.
split the 3s and the 2s.
Give you a little bit bigger
Well, why don't
area.
we try to lower it first and then go to
Well,
that?
either way. I would like a professional's
Yeah,
opinion.
I'd see either way.
Drop it down
Yeah.
to 5,000 for all, it's 10,000 for a lot.
A lot and a half, exactly. And the single ones, I think, can, you know, the ones that we can't do anything with, Rico, to Rico's point, yeah, just, cut the price. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk to Ryan, you know, I'll see when he can be available to actually sit down and kind of give his analysis of the market and these properties.
That's quite a few houses right there.
Yeah, I mean, even some of those lots, you know, $4,900. Even if you sold them all for half and you got a house built, you're gonna make that up pretty quickly
Oh, yeah.
in your taxes and utilities.
Yeah.
You know, one comment that was brought up and, you know, protecting, kind of the architecture of housing, and if you lower it too much, will it bring in more of a barn-like, just to, you know, will it ruin the look of the other housing in the area? I don't know.
I think you gotta do what you gotta do with those animals, but I think you're right on the bigger lots.
Well, there's square footage requirements. We don't really have an architectural standard. There are covenants that I was talking to Jim about, but I don't know if there's some protection.
You gotta pay more taxes. And more utilities.
So should we wait on this? To
We can bring it
talk
back.
to
We
him?
should kind of just go
Get the-
through it, just to
get
get the
him to
feel of
come in.
everybody, because then I can relay that to him and he can start doing his homework.
Can Ryan be here next week, or next meeting? I know you guys are gone, but if everybody's on the same page as far as we're gonna lower it, but we just wanna get some clarification on maybe, to Rico's point, on what to do with those
Yep.
bigger lots, we could probably do something next meeting.
So I'll relay just a kind of a analysis of the Norway Spring, whether lowering it, combining it, what kind of he thinks is a way to move forward.
I like that possible combining, like you said, because that's, I think that gets back to assuring the nicer home thing that's going on up there with the bigger lots. You know, but the standalones, you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta move them.
All right, so I'll relay that. So that's Norway Spring. A couple parcels that he does not currently have the listing for, and he expressed interest in listing for us, are these 2 lots here. These are 2 commercial lots, B3. Right now, they are listed on our for sale list. Parcel C, 45,000, parcel D, 35,000.
Where's it?
So here's the
That's,
hotel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hotel,
That's
okay.
the massage.
Yep.
So, you know, this is, we certainly, you know, when it comes to city property, it's not like we're out there pushing these lots on, you know, the website or anywhere. We have a property for sale list, but you kind of have to know that though that for sale list exists for anyone to stumble upon it. So have him, you know, that's a good commercial lot.
Those are zone commercial?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah?
So, you know, that's another one, when he can join us about his analysis of the market and price. And he may have some suggestions of what he thinks is out there that may be a viable option for these. But he expressed interest in those two commercial properties. So is there anything specific about these that you might want to ask him that I can relay to kind of get him started? On
Why is he
it?
interested?
Okay.
They're not
I
just
think-
because, they're not just because they can't sell them.
No, I mean, I think he looks at that and sees just a good commercial.
Right, why is he interested? Give it the lowdown on what he thinks he, you know, what he thinks he can move it and what possibly.
And it's also for you guys to tell him what maybe you'd like to see there, because then he might be able to start reaching out to certain industry that may be looking and may not know about this. So, you know, we obviously have a list of B3 permitted uses. So it could be potentially any of those, but if he knows what you might think you'd like to see, he might be able to go out there and try to find something.
Do we have a designation between commercial and industrial?
Yes, there is different permitted uses.
Okay.
Yeah. So if council's interested in him looking at those, I can have him kind of
Yeah.
give something to that. But as long as there's no objection to him moving forward on that.
Do you need a motion on anything?
Not yet. Probably not at all.
No
We're not gonna do
Okay.
anything, but, the last things I wanna talk about for this is Oak Crest. So right now, lots 1 and 2 are listed, through Ryan. And, you know, he's interested in that lots, you know, 4 through 10. And of course, these 10 lots are surrounded by that 160 acres that could be potentially
Developed?
developed into, you know, since I've been here, the conversation has been housing. You know, the big step in that would be, you know, utilities. We don't have all of our utilities in that area. But before we perhaps list these 10, maybe it's a discussion on what do we see in that 160 acres? Because, you know, these 10 lots are gonna be your entry
Your front end.
into those potential subdivisions, or maybe not, maybe something else. So I think before we list them, I think it's just a conversation of big picture, what do we, and I'll go to those. What do we see here? So here's the golf course, these are the 10 lots here. And this is that 160 acres. And we do have mountain bike trails back here, and it's a lot of land, a lot of things going on, but our road easement to the back 60 is off of Oak Crest Drive, splitting those first 10 parcels. So that is gonna be your entry into that. So again, just maybe we wanna have a conversation of
No, I
what
agree.
we see
I
there.
definitely agree.
Dan, I'm crazy here. I only see 9 on this graphic.
We sold them.
Because one is sold. One lot,
Which way?
the farthest west parcel. That was sold and a house is built,
All right,
or
so
being built, so it's
you
9 left.
Yeah, I know where that one's
Okay,
at.
so maybe it'll be like map 18, maybe?
I think we're
If this
looking
was
at,
to continue?
yeah, I think we're talking about 22 and 23. I mean, the easiest thing would be if you want to protect that roadway and for a possible entryway to it.
And we do have an easement, we have a road sort of cut
Correct.
in.
You could not list 22 and 23 and list the rest of them, because that would give you, you know, 2.5 acres on each side of the road going back to the,
Well, you know, I mean, if
Possible
you want to
development.
preserve that, but yeah. So, and Ryan agrees, this is, you know, Oak Crest is its own zoning district. you know, and there's some different things in there. Minimum house size for Oakcrest is 1,500 square feet. But again, maybe we want to look at some possible architectural standards of things, if this may be the entryway into something much bigger. So it's just a, you know, a conversation, a strategic plan, if you will, of what we might think is feasible there. Maybe housing isn't feasible, we want to get those 10 lots sold, and then we have recreation back there, but just a conversation.
Yeah, I agree with the importance of getting the architectural caveats, if you will, of what's gonna happen. My parents were one of the first ones to build up in the Springview subdivision, and maybe there's a diversity up there with houses and house sizes, and, you know, I think having a better overall plan, I think could be more appealing in the long run. Of course, we don't wanna price out our community and, you know, have some extravagant HOA type, you know, can't have a flagpole in your front yard kinda, you know, stipulations. But, I like listening to experts, you know. I think Ryan has a pretty good reputation.
Yeah. And, you know, council, I've never had a conversation with council on this 160 acres outside of these front 9 now lots. We've never really discussed.
And just so you know, Dan, we have.
Oh, I'm sure you have.
With your predecessor.
Yep, well, I know that, and I know it's mostly just been a kind of housing, but, you know, we haven't had that conversation. So I think it's a good one to start with Ryan and his thoughts and kind of where we go, but just to put it on your radar, you know, we are interested in looking at those remaining 9 lots, but again, just a conversation.
Yep, good.
So I will get a hold of him, and see what kind of his availability is and relay some of your questions to him so he can be prepared.
Okay.
And I don't need a motion for that.
No. We'll move on to number 5, Consumer Drug Take-Back Program.
Do we have anyone in the audience here for Consumer Drug Take-Back? Okay, so I knew we were gonna have a representative, so I'll. Oh, you are Jordan?
No.
Oh,
That's
okay.
not Jordan.
Oh, okay. So, Mayor, would you like me to kind of speak on, start with this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, Jordan, who's not present, owner of Norway Pharmacy, reached out to us about participating and paying for a consumer drug take-back program. I've had these in other municipalities. What they are is it's a place for citizens to bring their prescription drugs that they no longer use and dispose of them properly. Instead of it going in the garbage can or down the drain, this gives them a safe location that, you know, doesn't get exposed to anybody else. I've had these in police departments, and, you know, some places have it year-round, some places have it.
You can stay
once
at
a
the
year.
podium in case we have questions for you. Go ahead.
Can I get one?
There should be some in your, I got some in your binder as well. So, you know, their proposal was to have the city consider paying for this service, which is $1,600 annually, and then $100 per return beyond a once-a-month return. I did bring this to the DDA this afternoon, and they have agreed to go in halves with the city if the city so chooses to participate. You know, from a perspective of having it down at the pharmacy opposed to here, I think that's less work for staff here. I'm assuming it's a safe, secured
Yeah, I mean,
location.
that's one thing, having it there, it's safe and secure with the alarm system, you know, because, you know, just to put it someplace and if it's not monitored, you know.
Right,
That would be good.
right.
So you're saying if they gotta pick it up more than once a month, it's an extra $100?
That is my understanding.
That's, yeah,
Yep.
and I mean, we don't anticipate that.
Because that was the one thing too, that I was at the GDA meeting today too. They're willing to pay half, you know, half of it, but their question was too, if it goes over, I don't know if they were willing. So, I mean, if it's full for the month, it's full for the month?
Or how would I say, if it goes over, we'll pay for it.
Well, and that was my one question.
Okay.
If we want to partner with them,
Yeah.
perhaps they'll pick up the additional per month.
Okay.
Because I really don't know how many people will have to fill that up per month. You know, I do have a letter from our police chief saying he gets asked quite often
was just-
about where to dispose of prescription
I
drugs.
get a lot of, I've had many phone calls from people asking if our police department picks it up. And, you know, majority of them are elderly people. So I think this, you know, even though the state police, do they have one all the time or no? The state police, do you know?
They have usually 2 takebacks a year.
Okay.
You know, those semi-annual takebacks. And, you know, people think that we should just, the pharmacy should be able to take them back, but we can't. I mean, it's, legally, we can't by state and federal regulations. We can't be taking drugs back because then maybe we're gonna resell them to somebody else.
Right,
You know?
yeah.
So, you know, so if we get an inspector and we have these take-back drugs, you know, we would be in trouble. So,
Yeah, and I ran into that too. I was telling the DDA, you know, I had some of that. And I did call the pharmacy and talk to Sharon, and she's like, no, we can't. You know, I know years ago you guys used to, many years ago, whatever.
years ago, we would, we take it to camp.
Yeah, right. And she's
Those
like,
days are gone.
yeah. And not only that, I think it's a great idea because we don't want them in our sewer system.
You don't want them in your water splits.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
It's a growing problem in a lot of larger areas where they can test their water and
Yep.
find prescription medication, traces of prescription medications in their water supply, yeah.
Yep, I mean, it's a good program with the DDA picking up half. The pharmacy is willing to pick up any of the additional beyond 1 month pickup. You know, having it.
There's some administrative work, we don't
Yeah.
would take
Sure,
that.
right,
a lot,
right.
and-
So you're probably looking at doing like a next meeting, do a resolution to say the city covers half, the DDA covers half?
We already got the DDA's resolution.
Yeah.
Or
Oh, that's
there's-
done?
We got it, I got it from them today when we did it, and they're on board to give.
I don't know if we need a resolution, I mean, a formal motion indicating that, you know, the city would participate at a half cost of the 1,600
Yeah.
is sufficient. You know, the only request I would have to the pharmacy is if the DD and the city would like to participate, if we can put something out there that brought to you in partnership with the city and DDA with the pharmacy, just to get our, you know.
We could put some signage, we could put some signage there.
Yeah.
Would we need an agreement policy with the drugstore to do this, or the pharmacy? I
I mean,
mean,
we could do that, I mean, is it real necessary besides a or a motion? Probably not, but we can easily come up with a better agreement and bring it back for an official, you know, if
I
you
mean,
wanna.
because the city is spending money
Yep.
for this, you know, not that I'm not in favor of it or nothing like that, but, you know, just so that everybody's protected and we don't
Sure.
have to worry about anything like that.
Yeah, if we want a motion to approve our participation in half the amount split with the DDA, and, you know, we then direct us to get an official agreement, if that's sufficient for you guys, we can,
Yeah, that would be.
That's what I think.
I like that.
You guys should just do an agreement, bring it to us for approval.
that's fine.
It's a contract.
Because, I mean, we're gonna do it with Iron Mountain too, and they have some opioid money available. But then we can just do them all at the same
Sure.
time. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, are we good?
Yep.
My one and only semi-related question is, when did Jordan Marchetti become the owner of Norway
I was
Farms?
looking at that too, I thought you had ordered, you had ordered.
But we're 50/50.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
What,
Yeah.
what's that?
50/50.
50, okay.
Okay.
What, was this a recent development?
What's that?
Is this a recent development?
Yeah, very recent. Yeah.
Okay, all right,
In
I'm,
October.
Gotcha.
Congratulations,
Congratulations.
Jordan Marquardt.
I'm on my way.
Yeah.
okay.
They were the young, you know.
And you're Roll, right?
Yeah,
And what was
yeah.
your first name?
Steve.
Steve Roll. Thank you.
And that was one of my questions, but you did answer it. The DDA wanted to know if you guys were doing the same thing in Iron Mountain.
Should we make a motion just to
Yeah, I would,
move
yeah,
forward with it,
Yeah, and then,
with,
yeah.
yeah, you
And
can
Give me,
motion to.
give me
you
a
know,
shot at it.
Otherwise, I got it, otherwise, go ahead. I mean,
I'll make a motion that the city, as a 50/50 partnership with the DDA, to participate in the consumer drug take-back program, and associated costs with it, to be located at the Norway Pharmacy,
pending a,
pending a purchase or a
Just an agreement.
An
between the
agreement.
Pharmacy and the city.
Support.
And I'm thinking this place that does this, they might have a template.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we can, yeah, if you come up with one that you find that you'd like to use, send it to me and vice versa, we'll find one, we'll be in contact.
And before you do that, thank you for bringing this to us, and I think it's a great thing to have here. I really do.
Absolutely.
you know, and keep them out of the garbage cans in the system, and
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
The dumpsters out there in the park.
Yeah,
There's a motion, there's been a motion made and a motion seconded.
I've got Menegini, Kramer, and then I gotta do roll.
Yep.
Mrs. Brew,
yeah.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Menegini,
Yes.
Mr. Mararo.
Yes.
Mr. Pop.
Yes.
I have so many papers in front of me. Thank you again.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item number 6, UPS replacement, City Hall.
So we discussed this back in January about 2 of our 3 UPS units in the server room going bad. You guys had some more technical questions for Chris from Tech, who's here tonight, which I couldn't answer. We discussed kind of the generator question. Turns out one cannot replace the other. We do have one battery down there currently, one of 3 that we had 3, now we have one that is currently working. So I'm gonna turn this over to Chris mostly, so if you guys have questions about what happened or those units, what can be replaced in them, those kind of things. And I will just say from a cost perspective, we do have 10,000 remaining from a software upgrade that was cost us half as much. So if we do move forward with just the UPSs, we have 10,000 in that computer line item that has not been spent and has no other expenditure waiting for it.
It's like I always told your predecessor, just because we have it in a budget doesn't mean we necessarily want to spend it.
Well, we don't want to spend anything, but these are our backups.
Gotcha.
Chris, the one thing I wanted to ask you, this had nothing to do with what we replaced, right, recently down there? Because that was kind of a mix-up.
In terms of, I'm trying to think, we replaced a UPS down there 2 years ago.
What did we do didn't we do something down there in the fall?
We replaced some, I think. at Public Works.
Batteries, yeah, what was
The
it?
public, I think a UPS was replaced, I think.
Oh, what did we replace? It was nothing downstairs here.
Yeah, it was at the garage, I think.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, okay.
We replaced batteries in UPSs at DPW and
Yeah.
at utility.
When we had that outage, right? Yeah, okay. I didn't know if that had anything.
No, no.
I couldn't remember.
No.
Okay.
Question, Chris, how old are these?
So the 2 UPSs that we're talking about replacing?
Yeah.
They are roughly 8 years old right now.
8?
We typically recommend replacing the batteries in them every 5 years, and lifespan is 10 to 15 years for the actual equipment. Again, due to COVID and supply chain, we couldn't get batteries 2 years ago. So when it came up to 5 years to try to just replace them, we couldn't get batteries for it. We're still struggling a little bit to get that. Like Dan was mentioning, there are 3 UPSs down there. There are 2 larger ones that are redundant and back up the servers. And then there's a second or third one that's handling all the network gear. And that one we just replaced a year ago. The 2 large UPSs, one of them is malfunctioning. It still is working, but what happens is when there's a power outage, it will not automatically kick off the batteries back onto utility power, and it just shuts off. It's an internal switch within that UPS that failed. And since both UPSs are identical, it's not to say that the other one may have the same result. We are currently protected, so the other UPS is powering everything else. And actually, both UPSs are still powering the servers. It's just when the power goes out, one UPS won't come back on to continue powering the unit. So everything stays up, you just don't have any redundancy built into the system right now. The reason I'm recommending replacing both of them is because they work in tandem, both from a power standpoint, but also from a monitoring standpoint. So we monitor the power coming in, the power goes out, and we're on battery backup. Then the UPSs are talking to the server, and when it gets to a certain threshold, it tells the servers to shut down properly before power goes out. So that's why we're looking at replacing the units. Right so that they match, and we have that redundancy, because that's the way that we had designed the system. Other part of this is to increase the runtime, the amount of time we have downstairs, to keep that up and running. We
And
have
what's that runtime gonna be?
Well, in this plan, we're shooting for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Right now, we have about 45 minutes. And that is going down. I think we're down to like 25 to 35 minutes because the batteries need to be replaced with the units. Regardless, we have to spend money to replace the batteries in those units downstairs. So there's gonna be some kind of spend to do it. I just hate to spend money on putting batteries into units that may have problems in them, especially the ones already malfunctioning. And if they're identical, it's possibly the other one could have the same fate at some point. There was talk about a generator. We've been talking about a generator down in this building, I think, for 12 years. Hasn't happened yet. We designed the batteries downstairs, that whole system, with a generator in mind. And that's why at the time when it was approved, we went with these systems that gave us 45 minutes because there was going to be a generator that's going to kick on to power the rest of it. We don't have that. Great if you do get it, but I think this quote is adding an extra set of batteries to get us to that hour and a half to 2 hour mark that we need. It doesn't mean that you're throwing money away because we're, in a year or two we get that generator. We still need the UPSs regardless because there's going to be a lag between the power going out, the generator kicking in. More importantly, it's making sure that the power from the generator is being cleaned before it gets to the equipment, and that's what the UPSs do as well. It also means that if, generators are not 100%, if for some reason something happens and the generator doesn't kick on, we still have that extra battery runtime to keep things up and running. So that's kind of why we went this route, just to replace both units right away, get us the extra runtime down there, and just be done with it. And then hopefully with some of the grant stuff we're looking at, we can get that generator replaced to give us that extended runtime. We have an overall discussion that we had during budget season to discuss the rest of the city sites and how we can better handle outages and power fluctuations and network type things. But this kind of starts with City Hall and gets that in place, and then for flood season we'll talk about that.
Scott, you make any headway in the generator solution here?
I've not made any headway. If you look deeper in the packet, I have some old quotes from a few years ago.
I see Tim's name.
Yeah.
Talk to Tim about it.
Yeah.
I'll just make note that those are for like the entire city hall. So those are very robust generators. If we're looking at just a backup for the server room, it's a lot simpler. Much like with everything, getting parts is an issue right now.
And I'm
Finding a
sure the
generator.
prices are way higher.
Yeah, it's tough business right now.
What's the number? What's the number that you think it's gonna be roughly?
15.
15?
Yeah, Chris and I talked a little bit, because when we first brought this up, we were thinking, well, $6,000, we can get a generator. But the three-phase and all that, it won't work with a non-commercial. Like, Chris thought, what do you think, 20? You were thinking 20 to 20?
I was thinking 2025, for it. It just depends on, like,
What we need to power.
yeah, depending on how we split the breakers downstairs with the three-phase coming in and making it all, the transfer switch really is where it starts adding up. Because it doesn't matter how big the generator is, it's the wiring, the transfer switch, and all that starts, the costs start going up, especially with commercial.
So moving fast, real quick, the infrastructure grant, the 100 grand.
Yep.
Could we use some of that for this kind of project?
Possible, and that's our next item to discuss, but yeah, you could probably spin it as an infrastructure, it would have to be approved by them, but yeah.
But
Are you talking about from the county? Yeah.
The part of it is that the UPSs still have to be replaced.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Irregardless of generator talk,
Yes.
the
Yes.
UPSs still have to be there.
And
Yeah, nobody's arguing that.
there's a priority to this, but I wouldn't say it's immediate urgency. We're functioning, we're just crippled with that.
How long,
It's not a
When I did the quote, a week. Now, none is available. They might come into stock in a week.
So keep dragging your feet.
So is there a
It'll be the
possible,
day after never.
so the possibility that we could tie, while we're waiting, could we do something with the infrastructure grant and tie the UPS project and the generator project together?
Could.
And see if they'd go for it?
Could. I mean, if being crippled gets us along, we can also talk about this being put into the new budget, which is, July 1.
I don't know if you wanna go that far.
But,
I want to approve this and as soon as you
Yeah.
can get it. That's my opinion. I don't want to.
I mean, what we can do, if you want to approve it, we can do that, and then when we get to the next item, if we want to consider the infrastructure grant for that, then we can look at that, and I can try to reach out and find out if it would qualify, and if it does, then we could move forward with that, but, we could kind of do both and see where we go.
And I can hold off on ordering it until you decide which way you wanna go.
I don't think we're even talking about that. I think we're talking about you ordering it right away.
Yeah.
But we're just gonna
How we
see,
pay
this is
for
just the finances side of it, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Whose
No,
pocket's coming out?
we're not gonna delay you anymore. We delayed it enough and now look what happened. Do I have a motion? Thank you for coming in and explaining.
What do you want to do
Thanks,
for a
Chris.
price on this? Is the quote gonna be, do you want them to, just whatever they cost? I don't know if 78 is still,
78, 72?
Yeah, I quoted this in 2020, so the last week of December. I would say maybe not to exceed 8,100. That gives me a little bit of buffer. I don't anticipate it being any more than this. If anything, the shipping might go up. That's fine.
I mean, does council care if this is 81 or 85? Do you care if I just move forward with it?
Yeah, we always care, but we understand that things go
I
up.
mean, from bringing it back to get a pre-approval for another.
Not to exceed 8,500?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just ordered these for another client of mine,
Mhm.
and the pricing was the same last week when I ordered them, so
Okay.
I don't anticipate it being different, but things change.
Yeah, you don't wanna hang it up and wait another 2 and it gets even worse.
Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I motion that the UPS replacement City Hall be approved for a price not to exceed
8,500.
$8,500.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Morado?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes. Who seconded that?
Scott.
Yeah.
Pop.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 8, MMEA AMI grant participation.
no, Dickinson
Did I?
County
Oh, I'm
Infrastructure.
sorry.
Dickinson County Infrastructure Grant.
Item number 7, Dickinson County Infrastructure Grant Potential Projects.
So, we kind of brought this item kind of quickly, in my opinion. I don't think we had a lot of time to sit down and really dig into this on a staffing side. I told everybody in a week's time to send me some projects, and then we'll talk about those projects and whatever else you guys want to discuss. There should also be a handout in front of you for a cable project. So I've asked staff to be here to discuss their projects. I will likely just turn it over to them to field questions from you guys per each project, as they know them better than I. Of course, this is not a inclusive number. This projects, it's whatever, if you guys have different ideas or we can come up with some stuff, there's a multitude of different projects we can do for $100,000. So if council doesn't mind, I would recommend
Have them come up with-
turn them over to each staff member and have them go through. So if Brock wants to start with waste, he's got 3 wastewater projects coming up with $77,000. I don't think we have to do one total project. I think we can.
And we don't have to make a decision
No.
tonight, do we? But at least
No.
it's information.
Councilman Kramer kind of asked me if we should, when we would start talking about it, and I agreed we should start getting it here and start discussing what we might want to do with it.
If you all, review any of this, or you want to go right through everyone?
To go right through.
Okay, first one I got is the Oakcrest Golf Course lift station. So there's a lift station at the golf course, right by number 1, and there's 1993 was built, and it's all original equipment in there. It's been failing in the last couple of years. There's no monitoring, no SCADA system, it's either The red light comes on, if someone happens to be there, I mean, it's eye level. If nobody's there, nobody knows. We've had it where we've gotten, somebody comes the next morning, there's sewage underground, something failed. So there's zero monitoring there, it's all original equipment, parts and pieces are starting to fall apart at this time. We've got a situation about 3 weeks ago, just before that band out there, where they're at a high level, but it just came on for a second pump came on, took care of it, because everybody panicked, you know, and with this package, I can be able to see the level, I can log on my phone, okay, we're at 1 foot, you know, party on, no worry about it. Similar, we'll go to the next one, lift station 5, that services Evergreen Assisted Living, basically right across from the wastewater plant. That's a 1996 project. More recently, we had a starter relay to pump fail. We burnt out our pump. No communication. There's very little communication from there and very little monitoring. So it's like a high level. That's the only monitor. Had a pump fail alarm. I could send somebody there to shut that site down and save about 5-6 grand so far. So that's desperately upgrading because it's just been like a 1996, and then somebody tried upgrading it this year, and it's a disaster waiting to happen. And the last one I've got.
Hey Brock, did you give them handouts for?
This one?
Yes. Is that? So you should have a handout outside of the packet for.
So that handling machine is going to be the 8-inch, $28 or whatever, money letters.
Yep.
What that is, it's a sewer line that crosses White Creek near Ann Adams' house, if you're familiar with that area. It comes from Holy Spirit down and crosses the creek. It's actually, you can walk across it, it's creek level. 2017, it had leaked into the creek. We put a patch on it, repaired it. Prior to that, it leaked another time. And it's just, I don't want it to leak again. So the proposal for the 30,000 or whatever it is to have a company come in and slip line it. They come in from the inside out, put a fiberglass and epoxy liner in it. That's the best we can do, other than putting a full blown lift station there, because you'd have to get down and then force it across to the plant. So that'd be the most affordable, and right now the only option that I see fit for that place. And that could be a little heavy on the quote. The guy without coming to see, he was ballpark, whatever, it was 2850 or something.
The Oak Crest, that would be with SCADA updates as well?
Yes.
That would,
It would get it right to our SCADA screen, because we can get wireless.
Yeah, Carl talked to me about it. I was gonna look at the site while I was up here this week. I think we can wirelessly connect it from up to the cable TV head like we do with the compost site right now. So there should be no additional monthly cost for a cell connection.
Okay. Which would then give it monitoring on the phone at the plant and anywhere else. We have SCADA.
thanks, Brock.
Thank you.
Anyone?
Thanks, Brett. Wish list number 2, what's next?
David, you want to come up and talk about the well exploration and wellhead upgrade?
Well, I don't have any fancy handouts for you, but the project that we've been looking at was for putting our new well field in on West Drive. Exploratory is going to cost $75,000 to see if we have adequate water supply. So that's just to get in there, test the system, see a pump, do a pump test, see it's sustainable for the city. We're looking at 550 gallons per minute for a well. That's what would cover the city in the event of a fire, and if we lose our well field down there, we can still supply our water to our tank.
Dave, this is federally driven, right?
What's
This
that?
is federally driven? This,
No, our demand, basically it comes off our infrastructure. Our infrastructure now, what we know is, we've been at the well field for 37 years. That's,
Okay.
you know, since that started, 1987. We only have one transmission main. That's coming along the highway from the well site, 2 Vulcan, 1 main. There's no loop. If we lose that well field or that main coming to Norway, we're out of water within 12 hours. Completely out of water. We can shut valves, do whatever you want, we still can't resupply. There's no vendor close enough. So to look at the future would be put in our well, away from there, have another mean that would supply the city. If we have issues, we don't have anything going on now, but there's almost 4-year-old
I
plan.
thought the state was mandating us to do something like this.
No, that's got Leaden Copper Road.
Yeah.
The Leaden, 7 o'clock. Leaden Copper Road is what is federally mandated. So I got a bunch of bells and whistles, some fire calls.
But weren't they pushing us to
I
have?
thought they were.
Yeah.
Secondary site.
They recommended us for doing that, yes, that is driven by the Eagle.
Eagle.
Okay.
Because they know the same thing we're looking at, one operation going in this direction.
They just don't want to give us any money to do anything with,
Right.
right?
You might find
The
some.
grant and the funding would be after the fact that we spent our money.
Yeah, I remember that now. The exploration was on us. Yeah.
And our site is over here in this area.
You will get help, but you gotta do the exploration part yourself. Yeah.
And the 75,000, that is currently in this current budget.
Right.
So we put that on there, that, you know, this is a way to not have it in our budget, and we really haven't done much with it, mostly because quite frankly, I just.
Well, that's good
don't like-
information.
I don't
Yeah,
know anything
I like
about
that,
it.
that's already current.
Yeah.
That's good.
Excuse me, Brock, was any of these on your wish list in the current budget?
No,
So none of them are budgeted,
not currently.
not budgeted.
So if we don't get to it, you know, if we don't do anything with that exploration this year with 75, we would probably present that in the next budget to carry over.
But it was in this year's budget, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
I know
right. With the managers changing positions and things like that going on, Dan coming up to full speed, learning what was going on, Coleman Engineering coming in, you know, that's where we were at, but we have to get there's a whole test, I think it's all documented already, we have to look for the paperwork.
I remember talking
Yeah.
about that
Yeah.
with Ray too.
Yeah.
And it's basically driven that they're worried about the same thing in the future, but water supply.
And David, if this well did go in, would it help produce water for potential developments in that Oak Crest area?
We would take, and running down that road to Oak Crest Drive, all the way to where the gas station, pump station is there. We have a 12-inch main right there. We would tie in there, so you'd fit, the whole line of the road would be water main. All your properties would be, water lines across the road to them. That would be all set to go for future development houses. There also would be a contingency that if the houses out there, wells went dry or issues would become down the road, they would have to top the city water supply.
Yeah.
So, and the fire protection and insurance and things with that would change because you have your wells there.
Yep.
And like I said, 550 gallon per minute would be a well that we would require out there in that area. Can we sustain it, climate pumping well and whoever, and we're gonna bid them out. And climate figures in looking at the geology of the area, that's where we could develop that well. So.
Yeah, 'cause this is exploration.
Currently, we have 480 gallon per minute well on our number 3, which is our largest. Then we have another one pushing 350 gallons per minute, and our smallest one, which is running majority of the time right now at 250 gallons a minute, is meeting our demand and filling it and everything right now.
People are happy when they get free.
Didn't we do core samples? Did we do core samples out there?
No, we didn't do any sampling or any drilling whatsoever yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just by the
That's what we talked
geology, they're
about.
thinking it's a good site?
Geology right now, but.
Existing geology?
Once you set up the program, he's gonna pump for 24 hours. You have a generator, they're gonna pump 24 hours out of wells, so it develops. They know by sizes of casings and that, they're gonna sink, I believe it's a 3-inch or 4-inch well, and just pump that for a 24-hour period, do the calculations by math, and they'll know what we can see in a large pump. And then it's gonna cost probably around our range of $5 million, you would say, in the future, for your pump stations, your piping, and all that. But then-
That's where the feds and the state gotta start kicking in.
On top of all that, you have the copper rule coming up, and they changed the rules again, the EPA's and all, but there's money available,
Yep.
but that's not until 2025, I don't see us getting it.
Yeah, we're not gonna be ready for it till then anyways, I wouldn't think. I mean, it's 2023, we're just gonna start exploration, right?
Right now, we have 300 houses, 300 sites that we have to go and take a look in the city water supply for white copper.
And that's gonna be a very large expense over the next, how
And
many
that's
years?
Right, next 2 years, we have left on that grant to get this all set up next year. And then after that, we have to be compliant and remove 5% every year.
Yeah, that's where the real expense.
And we have until 2040.
When are we gonna start informing homeowners?
Basically, it's on our dime. If we find a lead service, you're responsible. City line.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing the whole, and we have to go 18 inches.
No, I understand it, just, but I'm sure the homeowners would like to know if their drinking water's coming out of lead pipes, that's all.
We've done our testing. We just went through a sample period here last year. We've sampled houses with the lead connection, and they have nothing, no trace.
Good.
But the state mandate doesn't say to test houses. The state says if you have it, you remove it. That's what the mandate is.
Okay.
So that's what's, and I believe I've been arguing with this, and I'm not the only we're not the only municipality arguing. We've been in discussions with them, why can't we just sample these houses? Figure out, okay, here's our houses with the lead connection. Sample it. See what the point is. Take that number and say, okay, is this number high enough to replace it, then replace it.
It's called Flint, Michigan, that's why you can't do it.
You have that, and you can, now you can discuss with them, you couldn't discuss that when it happened. And I believe me, there's a changeover at state level, there's no, all the older operators or the district engineers that we know, I even going, working with, who are coming up in about 5-10 years of retirement, are retired, they're gone. So it's all moving. And then the other one would be the wellhead upgrade. That would be changing and upgrading our SCADA system, upgrading our metering system at our wellhead. You know, our meters they're 10 years old. Probably look at magnetic meter. No moving parts inside the pipe. It just takes that pulse of the water going through and sends it to the SCADA system. Currently we have little probes in there that spin, they get clogged. Are we accurate? We take it out, we clean them, talk to the company, send it to us, they won't send us nothing back, we'll see how bad it is, they're about $10,000 just for the meter. And that's what we have currently, so. And the numbers aren't there for the magnetic ones yet, they're trying to figure that out, it's all up in the air right now.
I'm sure it'll be expensive.
Yes, one meter, one well meter would probably be around 30,000, might just for the
How many wellheads we got?
3.
There you go.
Would this project potentially help resolve or look at our water loss?
It could. Looking at what I'm looking at, I don't think our numbers are, data's exactly right coming in. That metering system we currently are running, based on it's 10 years old. It's slowing down. It's all electronic, it's all digital. There's nothing to physically see other than what that panel's telling you on the wall. So, pulses are there and it just goes by the pulse, so.
And do we have numbers for that from,
I have some numbers for them,
Okay.
for that already, I'll get that forward to you.
so I'll send you guys an update of just what that cost is, because at the time I wrote this, I didn't know what
And
that number
seeing
was.
companies that get 3 of them, I mean, we all know our meter problems currently. You know, I think he's giving an upgrade. We did receive 210 components to go with the 500 that we have on the floor. We have 200 parts came with of them, so we roughly have 200 more meters we can install.
Oh, you got the other parts?
That's good.
I think we were down to,
We have the base meter that you put it inside the house, and then you have the wire that goes out to send the signal. We didn't get those parts. There's 310 on back order. So we got 200 keeping, surprised.
But to your point, great, so we're taking care of it at the house, but if the heads aren't,
The
if we
signal's
can't,
not coming out, we're not gonna get it, we're not gonna get it.
we can't, the data won't match and we won't know what's going on, right?
No. But that's, we just got those in on Friday. Went through the case and they're the upgraded version.
and I have an updated meter list in your packet.
And you're probably thinking about 100, your guess right now is about 100K for those 3 wellheads?
Yeah, yes.
We'll get a better number for that project.
Maybe 75 for that, and one wellhead is,
Well, when
30.
you go to the big stuff, once you start wellhead, it's putting pipe in, you're going to some expenses. You got to have a control bill. And we're gonna try to keep the control building similar. That building's gonna function off our main. There's a lot of money in upgrading the power down the road, 3-phase. All that has to come, 12-inch main.
And this 100,000 doesn't have to cover an entire project. This can put towards a project that may cost more that helps us.
Can't you hire some guys that bring us good news? Huh?
No, that is not my job
This is the
description.
money that you said you have, that's what we're. That's what I heard, this was about the wish list.
Thank you, David.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
I'll quickly just touch on these two, and then I'll have Scott touch on cable. Scott gave us these quotes for the commercial backup generator. These are from several years ago. Tim Brew actually is the one that is on there. As we talked earlier tonight, probably not 75, but certainly something we could look at as part of this money. The refuse, Councilman Kramer and I have kind of discussed this. This would be going to your more standard 96-gallon garbage container for all residents and outfitting the new truck with a rear loader. So not side loader automated, but our guys pulling that out to the truck.
It's called the can tipper.
Can tipper. There you go. So just stuff we've kind of been talking. I kind of like that one. But I think it's nice to have a single container, but
Would we offer commercial then still?
yeah.
Just multiple containers, each container, you just charge them
X amount of dollars.
per 96 gallons, you can have as many as you want, really, I guess.
Just like that, like, what me and Dan were talking about was, you know, the first garbage can basically the city pays for. If you want to have more than one can, then that's
Right.
what you pay.
Yeah.
I mean, then there's no argument on what size can, how many
Right.
bags, nothing.
Commercial council want to get it, they'll get one, and if they want to have 5, they can buy the other 4.
And the other thought there maybe is, you know, looking for expansion out to further areas with those, you know what I mean? A little different revenue, whatever it may be, you know, get into your township or whatever it may be.
Yeah, we have a plan for some potential refuse expansion that we'll talk, that we easily think we can live in about 800 homes.
Right now, the rural areas, or actually just outside of like Escanaba, is, what did I tell you, 28 a month?
Yeah.
28 a month, and it's a 96-gallon can, and, you know, there's municipalities picks it up for that.
Right.
Outside of the city, our people are paying $39 a month for a 96-gallon pickup. So there's some potential with not just those cans, but expanding, but that's a whole other.
There's good news, revenue
I
maker.
was just gonna say it. Good job, somebody brought a revenue maker.
So I talked to David today. He's gonna talk to Rick about getting a quote from Loadmaster about what it would take to add
You probably have to get a truck,
the rear.
right?
So,
What's
Probably gotta get a second truck.
well, we're hoping this could be put
Probably
on
another
another
day.
day.
They're looking into it, our truck is, the bell body and everything in the back is equipped for that.
Oh, yeah.
We had it manufactured, it's just what's gonna be on the tailgate.
Yeah.
And then there'd be one more truck we'd have to retrofit, because we always got the spare truck.
Yeah,
and
this-
You would need that
Yeah,
other
but-
secondary truck with it.
If you expanded, it would be another day of pickup, right? Not necessarily another truck.
That's what I was
Oh,
getting
if we
at.
went somewhere else, no, we would take it and make it a 4-day run instead of 3-day run.
Okay.
And we'd be all right with the current equipment. Yeah, basically they take that tailgate, they probably take, well, I used to build them, you take the tailgate off can, and they actually have a tailgate that goes on there where they put the tippers are built right in.
Right.
And they're little hydraulic tippers. They run them up there, they kind of just slide right on and they go, and they roll them back to their spot.
Am
Probably
I-
less chance of injury for our people too.
Well, there's no lifting, it's
There's no
rolling.
lifting, right, it's rolling
It's rolling.
pretty fast.
You know, and my number on this, I threw 100,000 plus, because I have not really looked into the cost of cans. I do know they're not cheap.
They're not.
So we'll look at, but this is one that could potentially generate some revenue as well down the road. So we do have a plan for, we'll figure that. That's kind of what I have for those two, and then, you know, Scott, if you want to speak on the cable one, I mean, I know you're better than me.
I'm not very, they got Christmas here, so.
Right.
I can help you, Bill.
Yeah, so basically, if we had $100,000, we could replace the switch in the head end. Right now, this current switch in the head end does not support 5 volts, which we've been talking about for like 2 years now. This switch might support 1, but if the goal is to go 5 volt, this switch is the Achilles heel. So that switch would be number 1, get that fixed. We then could deploy 3 5 volts. So taking 1, which is node 7, downtown area is the most heavily loaded up node, and splitting that 1 into 2. Right away, that just raised everybody's speeds dramatically. By doing that as well, we would also do a mid-split, meaning we would basically double the amount of frequency that the system has. Is that accurate?
Bandwidth.
Yeah, double it. If not, go even higher. There's what, 87, does that sound right? You go up to 207. There's some talk that we may be able to go as high as 207. That'll work out in the weeds, I guess. But no matter what, if you did this, node 7 would see lightning fast increase in speed, the pixelation on the TV would go away, the noise, all of it, it would be much, much more robust, much more reliable. And then we would have one more that we could replace, let's just say node 6. So we'd have 3 new nodes, 5 nodes in the system that have replaced 2 of the old ones and added an additional one. So we feel pretty confident we can get that project done for $100,000.
And that's the high end, Scott, it's great. The good news for us is on the low end side of that, all the service calls, all the people that are complaining about their internet and their TV, that pretty much goes away, because we're dealing with these 3 overloaded nodes, and that's where almost all of our problems are coming from.
And this really, once again, this lays the groundwork that next year you can do more, and the year after you can do more. You can keep going with this. Right now, like I said, we have 7 nodes. Kind of what I've been hearing is we would probably want to see somewhere around 11 nodes on our system in order to make it very reliable and just kind of, for lack of a better term, idling. That it's got the capacity, it just kind of works, and we don't really have any issues. So
Yeah, and
that's kind of what I know.
this project is kind of our, as we talk about the communication system in general, this is part of our developing a proposal to show one direction of our path forward if we retain it. And then I am, and I apologize, going to bring you a pretty simple RFP for you guys to let me put it out to the world to see. So we want to bring you guys 2 different proposals, one of potential sell, and then a kind of 3 to 5 year plan to increase and keep, and this is just kind of part of that long term.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is all part of the next step for us would be to show you how this $100,000 plays into the big picture. And that goes as far as equipment, capital. I know there's talk of staffing solutions in the future, how these plans come together and actually solve some of those issues. So we'll get there. But if you needed to know how to spend $100,000 in the cable department world, this is a really good start.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
So that's our current list that we, kind of thought of in a week.
And when you get the rest of the information, get it out.
Yeah, and so I don't know if there's anything that you guys that we haven't discussed would like us to start investigating. Feel free to either talk to us now, or if you guys want to send me send me some emails of what you'd like us to look into. We can start to do that. We'll just bring this back every time we're ready to have more, and you guys discuss how you will, and kind of we're looking for your direction on how you'd like us to move forward.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. That helps immensely by having the department heads here to explain it to me.
We'll move on to item MMEA AMI grant participation.
So, we had this at the last meeting, and at that time, council said no to spending the $3,000 to $4,000 on the grant process because the DOE had not approved the concept paper of 17 municipalities coming together. The next day, I got the email saying the DOE said, yes, great project, we approve your concept paper, submit. So those 16 municipalities are on board. I said, I need to revisit this at the next meeting. They said, that's fine. So it's back. So there's a couple things here. And I'll let Scott speak to the majority of this. Our project idea, now that the DOE seems to be more interested, over 50% of the concept papers were denied. So we think this is looking good. So our project has increased. Our project went from something minor to the project we were discussing about over the summer about the whole reliability system. And this fits into this project. Things that we've been talking about that need to get done years down the road. So, we have a proposal in there that's a year or so old that was about $750,000.
The PUC.
Well, yes. And 50% of that cost would be on us. So, I'm throwing it just, again, year and a half or so old. I'm saying, let's say it's $1 million, say $500,000 to us. This reliability project keeps the hydro online. Every time that goes offline, I don't know how many tens of thousands we lose
Every time
in a year. It's a lot of money. It's a project that the electric department can handle, and if it's one that at some point we have to start to get done regardless, this is a chance to get 50% of that funded. So when you guys talk about tonight committing, if you commit to this grant, it's committing to a $3,000 to $4,000 participation in that grant, but they will need a commitment letter from us saying that if this is approved, we have the funds and we are willing to move forward. So if we commit to the grant, we are committing that we are budgeting $500,000, hopefully less, to be spent in the next fiscal year, maybe the one after that, depending on when this project to go along. I think it's a good deal. And I'll let Scott here, present this better than me.
I agree with that too, because we've been looking at them for a long time, and it's really important. And, you know, if we did fix that, we're gonna make money back, because every time we go offline.
And it's less than a 1% risk upfront.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, $4,000, it's less than 1% risk.
We are committing to a big number, and that's why I want to make sure everyone
Well, I
understands.
mean, we understand that, but every time that dam goes down, we lose big numbers.
We lose 60,000 every time. or
Yeah,
Yeah.
it don't take long, it don't take long to pay it off.
I mean,
And Chris is also probably good, you know, he's sort of involved in this system a little bit, but, so, yeah,
I don't
Leave
even
it to
have
you
to do
guys
anything
to-
else.
No, I don't.
I think it's a no-brainer,
There's just
and
a couple things I'd like to talk about in regards to grants. So this is a 50% funded grant. This is fantastic. So it's really important that we got some of these hybrid projects in on this one because it's 50% funded. The other hybrid project grants that they're rolling out right now are 30% funded. So it's kind of awesome that we have a distribution system tied to a hydro that we can say, hey, this hydro is coupled to a smart grid. That's how we qualify for this 50%. So that's pretty awesome. So that's kind of why we're like, let's throw this project into the MMEA so we get 50% versus 30.
I think it's a great idea.
Also, we have 5 years basically to make hay while the sun shines in regards to utility grants. The first year, this is a great way to start, but in 5 years, the grant money pretty much terminates unless it gets renewed. So, in my opinion, we just make hay while the sun shines and just keep going, get this project done, and who knows what the next avenue is, but this is hugely important to get accomplished. So, I just want to put out your radar that the grant money does not last forever. This is about 5 years worth. This is the first year, and they're in a panic to get it going.
Just a quick comment. Isn't it wonderful to see an engineer get so geeky about, excited about that geeky stuff?
Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I motion that, we enter the MMEA IMA grant, I guess, consortium?
Yeah, here.
You got one in there? I recommend we approve participating in the MMEA AMI grant application and committing up to $4,000 for the said grant application. Approve sending a letter of commit to spending up to $500,000 for project to receive the grant funds.
Support.
Can we put not to exceed for your 4,000? Price not to exceed?
And
That's
it
what I
shouldn't
mean.
exceed that, but
Yeah,
that's,
yeah,
Well, yeah, up to.
okay.
I did say up to.
Okay, that's fine.
I think she likes to see it the other way, though.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
to
not to
exceed.
exceed. Makes us feel better.
Sure.
Did we have a second?
Scott seconded.
Mr. Marraro?
Yes.
Mr. Pop? Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Nice job on that, all involved.
Energy control design contract renewal.
So this is I'm not real well versed in this. This is, Energy Control and Design is the company that manages our HVAC system, which
They've been doing for.
is far more complicated than I ever would have thought. So their renewal is up. The standard renewal has gone up by $93. I did reach out to them to see if they'd be interested in doing a 3 or 5 year long-term agreement. Council's kind of discussed some longer term with companies that we know we're going to use for very specific purposes. So they have included their 1 year renewal, a 3 and a 5. The more terms you go, the little cost savings. I've included, I believe I have a memo from Ray when he had this, and it was essentially where we went out to bid the very first time we did this, and if we went with a different company, we'd still have to use them for the technical side.
Yes.
So,
Energy control and design, their software has to be their own programs
Right.
and their own codes.
right, so we'd have to have two companies.
Yeah.
So, so I do have your 1, 3, and 5-year option for renewal. So if we do 3 years, we're good for 3 years, and if we do 1, we'll bring it back again. So that's really all I have for that.
Thanks.
So, do you wanna just do a 1 year, or do you wanna, yeah, that's what I thought too. All right, do I have a motion? Sit there.
A motion that the agreement between the city of Norway and Energy Control and Design be approved to provide annual HVAC mechanical maintenance at the city hall for 1 year.
Do I have a support?
For a price not to exceed
Oh, yeah.
$2,450.
Why don't you put that down there and make it sense? See, that's what
Because I didn't know which one.
I'll support that, Jeff.
For a price not to exceed $2,546 for the year.
Support.
Mr. Pop? Yes. Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Mararo?
Yes.
Move on to number 10, Spark Grant. Dan?
I think I might have put some stuff in some memos to you guys prior, but what this is, back in late November last year, the DNR has federal COVID money that they are distributing for what they're calling the Spark Grant, so a Park and Rec grant. The Parks Committee has discussed this once, and we hope to continue, but what it is, it's a $100,000 to $1 million grant with zero match. The round 1 was in December, which we did not submit. We have round 2 coming up this spring and round 3 in the summer, to which we don't know when that will happen. The Parks Committee met once on this, and we discussed different potential projects. I think where we landed on the most viable one is looking at Strawberry Lake, replacing the Knights Kingdom Playground, and we
need
also,
that bad.
in the same submission, looking at a semi-enclosed ice rink. So I have included some just ideas of what potential play structures could be and cost, and kind of my vision of what I think a nice looking semi-enclosed ice rink could do. So what I'm kind of looking for, because the Parks Committee has had we couldn't meet last time for lack of a quorum, and I don't know when spring might open for this grant, so I wanted council to kind of see where we had talked about to make sure that this is something you would support. And then if you do, we'd like to get that Parks Committee back together again to continue working on design and get the public's input a little bit more, so when that spring comes up, we're ready to go.
You talking a hockey, like a
It's-
hockey rink?
It's actually just a roof. It's a covered area,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
It's like a hockey rink.
But we could it could be used for that purpose if somebody wanted to come in and.
I'm suggesting
Yeah.
we go for full refrigeration on the ice.
Because the grant is so much.
You would need a Zamboni, I'm
100%?
not sure.
What's the ground, 100%?
100% zero match.
Let's go crazy.
Now, so I'll tell you, round 1 ended, okay? There were 1,700 projects. Sault Ste. Marie was the only one in the UP. So it is highly competitive.
Oh, no doubt.
But
I wonder if you could when you do the grant, put a package together with Marion Park included.
We have
Well-
to stay in the same location.
Shed.
It's very like,
Yep.
You know, show them what we've done on our own dime, you know?
Yep, and there
Imagine if
are-
they give us some money.
Yep, and there are parameters of, because we talked about Marion Park and the multi-use field. And while it qualifies, there's specific stipulations of showing the use of how much is used for collegiate, it can't be used primarily for that. It has to be primarily used as a general public.
Sure.
A very big,
And our Strawberry Lake.
a very big part of it.
Oh, yeah,
was-
yeah, it's good there, exactly. I'm just saying, use Marion Park to say, this is what
Oh,
the city's done on our own dime. You know, we're committed to this type of, you know, these type of things.
A very big part of this grant was what was the most used during COVID.
Yeah.
You know, how much increase or
Yep.
how much was this used, or that's a big part of it.
Yeah, so I think we have a good story for that, especially, you know, you look at, again, like Brett and I talked at the Parks Committee, you had COVID coming, we assumed most kids had to spend their time outside. Knights Kingdom got used a heck of a lot more than it ever did. We can show kids with slivers, we can show tears.
They like that.
We can, you know, we can really play on, this is all of a sudden used a ton, same with the rink, and, you know, we have to show full ADA, you know, the flooring of that structure is gonna be that rubber matted, and it's gonna have to, it's got the whole 9 yards, but, this project's easily 500.
But the money right down, stand out state for the most part.
Yes, the Sioux was the only one. Now Iron Mountain, people didn't exactly know exactly how to submit, so there was a lot of low scores. So everyone's learning from their first round mistake, and we'll be resubmitting. I think we can submit more than one project per round, but I certainly want to submit something in the spring round and something in the summer round. If this doesn't get picked up in spring, I'd like to resubmit it, maybe in summer with an additional project.
Awesome.
We talked recently, Mr. Anderson has hours left.
Yes.
He's a heck of a grant writer.
So if you guys are cool with kind of our direction, our plan is to get the Parks Committee back together. You know, you don't have to have public participation. There's no points awarded for that, but the more I think we can show, the better we are. So,
It's a great
Nice.
idea.
Yeah, really nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Not expanding on what we have, just upgrading what we
Yep.
have.
We'll move on to mayor council comments. Scott?
I'd just like to touch on one thing, right of what happened with Michigan State down in Lansing the other day. You know, our district, school district was approved of a 3-year grant to help out with a resource officer. I know there's been discussion out there, and I'm trying to get this going, I'd like to see it going a little bit faster. If we have to bring it to the school board ourselves, I just think there should be some kind of deal that's worked out so we can get moving on this, just to make our school district safer than what it is. I know the school does have a safety program, and they have gone through, you know, training, but there's not enough training in the world to be ready for what had happened. You know, we have a resource officer there. You know, I know that they've had gone through, you know, like the county, the state, all the police officers who are at the school, you know, you guys did that. But all it takes is Norway Police Department to have somebody that they have to take up to the county jail or something going on up there, and something else going on the other side, Dickinson County. It's gonna take 15, 20 minutes for any cop to get to Norway. And if we have a resource officer right there, it really limits on the damage that can be done. I'd just like to see it move forward. You know, we've offered to help out, that we will help out with whatever it takes. I do realize it's only a 3-year grant, but there can be other avenues that we can go down when it comes to the 3 years. I'd just like to see it move forward, and I do know we used to have a city, school, safety committee that we were meeting, and it was felt that we didn't have to move forward with that anymore. I'd like to see that brought back to the table again.
So
That's all I got.
maybe you can contact the school and see when we can meet with
yeah,
that.
I mean, I can just speak briefly. So Chief Wilkie and I, you know, we have a plan that we think is viable for the SRO. We met with the superintendent and just kind of went over that. I haven't heard anything from them since that meeting.
Okay.
So we will reach out and see where
Yeah, and see
where
if
they
they would
are,
like to meet
and
with
then
us.
try to see.
I see Ishmael just passed it last night. They're at.
Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, last
They're
night?
looking into, yeah,
Okay.
they're going for it. I think it's, as long as the grant's there, we're gonna do it.
Much like this body, I would say contact the school board members. I think anyone working in a school including everyone at Norway Vulcan Area Schools, sees the benefit in something like this, it's gonna be the financial commitment, and those decision makers are the school board. If you want to move this, I would suggest, individually contacting each member and just kind of taking their pulse.
When we had that committee, it was 2 council members, and I think it was 2 board members, and there was 2 administrators that were part of that committee.
Yeah.
Something like that.
When Chief Wilkie and I spoke to the superintendent, the kind of plan was he was gonna bring it to his board and then get back to us, and then we would present it to the council, and they'd have reps, and we'd go to them and have reps. So if they just had their meeting, I would presume we'll hear.
I just saw the email that was sent out to us from the school saying, to parents and stuff like that, talking about funding and how nobody has money for, something like that to come out. And safety's the issue for the kids. Then they're right, money isn't no object for safety.
And plus the grant's gonna pay, pick up 50% of it?
50%.
Yeah.
But then a 25-25 split between city and,
Yeah, that was our initial conversation.
yeah.
Okay.
So I'd like to see that go forward. I don't want to see it dead in the water, especially that money's there to use.
Yeah, and so I think we haven't presented it to you, but Chief Wilkie and I think we have a good plan of how to utilize our current staffing to make this work. So if it does run out in 3 years, we don't have to let somebody go because we have a plan to do it with the staffing level that we have.
Yeah.
So we will continue to.
Another thing I do have to bring up is, I'm guessing Officer Menard is done in October. Is that written in stone, or is that talked about? Because I'd hate to be right down to the last minute and trying to find somebody.
No, we're moving on that. We're well prepared for when he leaves to start and looking and interviewing and posting. So yeah,
Well prepared, eh?
we've been talking about it for months.
Nice, nice.
And it's not 100%, but yeah, he has indicated that.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that it, Scott?
Yeah, that's it.
Brett?
I have nothing, thank you.
Yeah?
Yeah, just to piggyback on Scott's comments about MSU, obviously tragic. We hear a lot about defund the police, right? We hear a lot about equity in our court system and law enforcement system. And, as the details are starting to come out, we find that this gentleman was actually picked up on a felony gun charge. 18 months ago to 2 years, but he was plea bargained out on a lower misdemeanor charges, which allowed him, after he got a probation, to legally purchase guns. If he would have been brought up from what the police gave the charges as felony, he would have never been able to buy a weapon. This probably would not have happened. So again, when people see that, defund the police, equity, all these things, equity is a very dangerous word when it comes to the criminal justice system. Criminals are criminals, and law-abiding citizens are law-abiding citizens. And there should never, ever be any negotiation when it comes to possible violent criminals. Sorry. Thank you.
Rico?
I think on December 14th of 2012, when the Sandy Hook massacre took place, when 20 6- and 7-year-old kids were shot and killed, along with 6, 7 other adults, and nothing has happened since then that anyone can point to as, yep, this is what changed because of that massacre of 20 6- and 7-year-old children. Nothing's going to change. It sickens me that this is the price that our country apparently is willing to pay for freedom. Like we talked before, this is a uniquely American problem. It's something that school systems, which has been my entire adult life, have to prepare for and train for. It's something that's brought up constantly. I hope for a change, but I have no faith that there will be any change.
Thank you. My only comment is, again, just sending prayers to the families and the students and everybody who works there to get through this as best as they can. Unfortunately, like Rico said, this is, just keeps, like, it's the new norm.
I think
It's,
there's been more mass shootings this year than there's been days in a year.
67.
In 2023.
I think that was the 67th.
There's more mass shootings this year than
Mass shooting defined of 4 or more, not including the you know, 'cause a lot of them kill themselves after they do it, right? So it's 4 or more casualties.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
not
it-
including a gunman.
That's an unbelievable.
Yeah, I think I just read it was 67.
I mean, this should not be the new norm. Something has to be done. Kids used to go to school to be safe. Parents sent their kids to school and felt like they were safe. I don't know what we gotta do, if we gotta call representatives, but something has to be done. It's very, very sad and disheartening what's going on. That's all I have. Dan?
I have nothing. I did ask Scott Hagee to have a comment on update on head gates as you requested.
Okay, Scott.
Okay. So, we got our head gates in, 6 of them to start with. I wanted to start by showing you what the condition of the old gates are. So, if you make note of this gate here, you can see the water line about 4 feet up. That's how much of the gates, the old gates, are in the water. Now, I don't think we're really seeing much of an efficiency downgrade from that, but I do think we're seeing what you call turbulence in the water, which would contribute to cavitation, which, as we've learned the hard way, that's an issue. So by getting these gates out, you're gonna see a more linear water flow coming in and maybe some efficiency, but definitely things will run smoother. You can also make note that there is no bottom board on that gate. It's gone. So that's an issue.
That's
Next slide.
that's not a design feature?
No, so there's
Yeah,
a better.
streamlining, is that streamlining or something, or?
There's a better view of the front of that one. Yeah, it's just gone. So yeah, pretty rough.
So we have all 6 in, you said?
We have 6 in, yep. So, keep going, next
Hold
slide.
on, 6
All right,
in or 6 installed?
6 installed.
Thank you.
6 out of the 34, there they are right now. So with that one there, so what you're seeing, there's, the top panel's not on. So there's a main panel of 12 foot in height. Then there's another panel that's 2 foot 8 inches in height, and then there's another one that goes on the top of that one. The reason we made them removable is so we can get the gates up high enough so they're out of the water. I don't know if I have a picture, I think I do.
I
Go to
remember
the
when we
next
went
slide,
through
please.
that, yeah.
Tell me to go to the next one.
Yes, please. All right, there's the back side of it, just so you can see the gusseting and the amount of manufacturing that actually goes into these things. Next slide, please. Okay, so there, it's hard to see, but you can see that there's some gap between the bottom of the gate and the water. It's about 20 inches. So we've got plenty of wiggle room. Those gates should never interfere with the water going into the generator. All in all, we're very happy. I think we're gonna make some changes because we dewatered 4. The only issue we're seeing right now is where those panels mate together. There is some leakage there. And I think the solution's pretty simple. So we're gonna look at making a slight modification to that before we order the rest of them.
Who designed it, the gates?
Mead and Hunt. So I'm working with our engineer at Mead and Hunt to modify that so they don't leak. But even that, the leak, nothing in comparison
Nothing
to what
compared
the
to what it
gates-
was.
Okay.
A little bit of corn will take care of the leakage that we've got, but if we can fix it, we'll fix it. I don't know,
Thank God
next
for
slide,
corn.
if there is one. That's it? Okay, there we go. So what we're talking about doing is those, I said there's 2 small panels on the top. We're talking about getting rid of that and making it 1. What we found is that initially we thought because they're aluminum, we're gonna be able to take these things and kind of maneuver around by hand. Unfortunately, we can't. They're pretty heavy. They're pretty heavy. So let's just make them 1. Why even have that seal in there? Let's just make it 1. That should actually reduce the amount of manufacturing that goes into these things. Maybe we'd even get a little price off of it. And then where the gates come together, what they have is sealed material on sealed material. I think that needs to go to seal material on a mating surface. I think that's where we're getting our leakage from. So that's one of the things we're looking at doing. Rather than having, I think those two bulbs are fighting each other. They're bulb seals. I think we just need to have a flat surface for that bulb to lay up against, and that'll help our leakage out. So when we have those little details worked out, we're gonna send it off to FERC. They're gonna sign off on it. Basically all they need to know is that Mead and Hunt designed it. They're gonna say, yep, looks good, and we'll get the rest of them ordered that we have for this year. Because of where we are in this fiscal year, we're probably gonna order next year's right away as well, because they're probably gonna show up at the same time.
But we're gonna make sure to get the first sign off before we order the gates, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and on that note, FERC knows we're doing this, and they know that we got gates in ahead of time, because I talked to our inspector, said, well, we wanna try them before we get your blessing on it. We wanna make sure that these things are right, and he completely understood. So they're well aware of what we're doing.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
All right.
It's nice having Scott back.
Do we have any other comments? If not, I need a motion to go into closed session for litigation update. We will come back into open session, but there will be no votes or anything. We'll just adjourn.
I move we go into closed session pursuant to MCLA 15.268, Section 8(1)E for litigation update.
Support.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Mararo?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
And thank you again, guys.
Yes.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Chris.
That was a mouthful.